Hi, I'm Jon Lee, and welcome to my first video book review. I've been doing book reviews on my blog for about a year or two, and I wanted to take the time to make a video review and see if people like that a little better. Plus, it lets me kind of talk in my more normal voice instead of my formal writing voice. So the first book I'm going to review today is going to be Conspiracy by Ryan Holiday. So if you're not familiar with Ryan or his book, let me quickly introduce both of them. Ryan Holiday first came to prominence with his book, Trust Me, I'm Lying. He's a very innovative marketer and writer. He writes for the New York Post now. He worked with Tucker Max. He worked with American Apparel. He was a media manipulator for a while. Really, really sharp dude. And the book, Conspiracy, is all about the Gawker battle with billionaire slash supervillain Peter Thiel. So for those of you who don't know, Gawker basically around 2008 outed Peter Thiel as gay, and that really ticked Peter Thiel off. Now, in the book, they don't mention this other second thing that happened with Peter Thiel and Gawker, and I don't know exactly what I can say, but if you Google Peter Thiel, Gawker, and look up the kind of post that really messed him up, it's a post about him trying to hire someone for a service that sometimes you can get in trouble for hiring people for. So go ahead and check that out. But anyway, so Gawker outed Peter Thiel, billionaire, PayPal founder, author of 1 to 0, really super smart guy, and extreme libertarian, Trump donor, kind of a futurist and into chaos and kind of into extreme limited government. There's some interesting stuff there. Like, from my readings of Peter Thiel's stuff, it appears that he wants almost no government and kind of wants to plunge things into like almost a dark era again, where only the kind of most economically successful succeed, but I might be misinterpreting that. Anyway, so Peter Thiel was outed by Gawker in 2008 and kind of swore a vendetta against them. He swore that he was going to get them, shaking the fist, right? And he started to look for ways to do this. And in the book, one of the interesting things is that there's a character called Mr. A who's never revealed, right? Like, one could even venture a guess that Ryan is Mr. A, because oftentimes when there are anonymous characters, it's the author. But Mr. A was the co-conspirator on this, and they started looking for ways to get Gawker, and they eventually found the Hulk Hogan lawsuit. And they were funding other lawsuits, and really, like, no matter what, Peter Thiel was going to see Gawker destroyed. He was going to see it through tens of millions of dollars. He did the value calculation that if there was a 20% chance of them costing him $2 billion in the future, it would be worth it to spend $200 million to get rid of them. He even called them the Manhattan terrorist-based organization. So in the book, Ryan talks to both Peter, Mr. A, and Gawker founder Nick Denton, and kind of gets unprecedented access to what both sides were thinking, and he goes through the entire case. Just a rundown on the Hulk Hogan case: his sex tape was recorded without him knowing by his former best friend Bubba the Love Sponge with his wife. It's weird. And they asked him to take it down. Gawker could have just taken it down and avoided this whole thing, but as I mentioned earlier, Peter Thiel would have just found another way to fund another lawsuit or another crack in the armor of Gawker. He was going to get them one way or another. But the Hulk Hogan lawsuit goes all the way to Florida. They file it in the right jurisdiction. They pick the right local Florida lawyers, and they get awarded something like $130-something million. So in the end, Peter Thiel is successful. Hulk Hogan gets a ton of money, and Gawker is completely destroyed. And also Nick Denton kind of has a come-to-Jesus moment as he realizes that maybe Gawker wasn't the force for good he thought it was. And in the book, Ryan kind of explains that he thinks that this was a good thing because there's not enough conspiracies, because not enough people have the self-discipline, the resources, and the kind of business acumen to see them through. So it's definitely an interesting book, but I want to talk about a couple of other things that I got out of it. So one of the big things I got out of the book was the idea of what's right versus what's legal. Technically, all the things that Peter Thiel did were 100% legal, but they were kind of a dick move, right? So that's one of the things that I think a lot of times separates kind of upper class people from lower class people. Like, people always say, like, upper class people, rich people don't fight, they let their lawyers fight, right? And the legal system is set up to reward that. Peter Thiel even had some kind of interesting quotes about how the legal system is not set up to benefit single-digit millionaires like Hulk Hogan, which leads me to think, like, if a single-digit millionaire like Hulk Hogan has trouble in the legal system, what's the average person who's $500 away from being broke going to do with the legal system? And it also shows that, you know, rich, powerful people have a lot of different ways that are legal to go about enacting their will, right? Like, Peter Thiel basically made a decision this place was bad, and he destroyed it. You know, you could argue that Gawker had kind of been trafficking in some stuff that was kind of nasty themselves, but regardless, if it happened at Gawker, it could happen at the Washington Post, which is owned by Jeff Bezos, or, you know, whoever just bought the LA, whatever the LA paper, I didn't do my research for this point, it's being bought by some like real conservative guy. You know, people with money can control the press, they can destroy the press, they can out-litigate people, they can find these creative solutions, and they're all legal, even if they're not necessarily right. And I think that that's a dangerous place to be, because it allows the people with power who already have the economic power to have even more power over how things are done, and to take down companies that maybe are powerful but not quite as powerful, right? Eventually, you're just going to have all of the power congregated in the hands of like 5 people, right? We already have that sort of in the media, you know? So it's not a great trend. What's right and what's legal should be more aligned, and hopefully at some point we can kind of get those two back in the same realm. Last but not least in this video, I want to give my recommendation. I really enjoyed this book. I think Ryan's a really, really great writer, and the book was super interesting, especially for me because I'd followed the case kind of in real time on the blogs. And so I already kind of knew the story, but getting the inside information was really interesting. And Ryan, as is his way, ties in a bunch of like historical quotes from everyone from like Machiavelli to great Stoic philosophers. So it's a really interesting read. It's a really good read, and I definitely recommend it. I'd give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. So definitely recommend you pick up Conspiracy by Ryan Holiday. If you're into business, intrigue, and legal drama, then you'll definitely enjoy it.